Arioni curry. Now before we get too deep into this, make sure you watch until the very end because I promise you, the receipts I've got, the comments from fans, and the way this whole situation connects back to other cast members, like Melody Shari and Martell Scott, is going to leave you shocked. You do not want to miss a single detail of this because it is too good. So let's get into it. Carlos King recently did a live with Claudia Jordan and Dustin, and baby, he dropped a bomb. Carlos said he doesn't believe Martell Holt is really planning on marrying Arioni Curry. Yes, you heard that right. He said Martell is just calling her his fiancée the same way some people casually call someone their wife or their man. According to Carlos, it doesn't actually mean they're engaged. Doesn't mean there's a wedding coming. It's just something people say when they want to sound serious without taking the real step. And listen, Carlos didn't stutter when he said it either. He was very clear Martell is dragging this out and he does not see it happening anytime soon. And honestly, I have to agree. Because let's be real, if Martell wanted to marry Arioni, he would have done it by now. He's had years, y'all, to make her his wife. But instead, what do we see? Hesitation, procrastination, and frustration. Carlos broke it down perfectly. When someone doesn't want to do something, they drag their feet, they make excuses, and they keep pushing it off. And isn't that exactly what Martell has been doing with Arionne? If he truly wanted her to be his wife, papers would have been signed a long time ago. Now, let's talk about Arioni Curry for a second. This is the same woman who is stuck by Martell through years of public embarrassment. The same woman who watched him go back and forth with Melody Shari, his ex-wife, on national TV. And the same woman who has convinced herself that Martell is the prize. But let's keep it real. Martell Holt has not proven himself to be a prize to anyone. Not Melody, not Arioni, not even to the fans who have watched his behavior play out season after season on Love and Marriage. Huntsville. Arioni has lowered her self-worth so much just to keep this man by her side, and it's sad to see. And let me just say this. Melody Shari would have never given Martell the type of control he tries to exercise over Arioni. That's why Martell could never keep Melody in that box. Melody had her own mind, her own power, and her own vision. Which is exactly why she walked away and has been shining brighter ever since. Look at Melody now winning awards, running her businesses, selling out products, being booked and busy, while Martell is still trying to convince the world that he has it all together. And Arioni. She's still holding on to the hope that one day she'll be more than just a placeholder. Now, here's where things get interesting. While Carlos was spilling this tea about Martell and Arioni, the conversation also turned to Trisha and Ken, who are newer faces on Love and Marriage, Huntsville. And let me tell you, their storyline is giving a whole different type of drama. Trisha was out here saying that Ken pays all the bills, bragging like she's living a life where her man takes care of everything. But baby, the truth came out quick. Ken might be paying the mortgage, but everything else? They going 50-50ths, and the fans were not having it. One even said that Ken was financially abusive because he constantly throws money in Trisha's face like it's a weapon, instead of taking real accountability as a partner. And honestly, I see the point. Because here's the thing, anytime a man has to constantly remind you of what he's doing for you, that's not love. That's control, and fans picked up on that immediately. Some people said Ken is a red flag because he never talks about what he does wrong, only about what Trisha does wrong. And doesn't that sound familiar? Martell Holt, anyone? The pattern is clear. These men try to control the narrative, make themselves look like the perfect provider, and push the blame on the women while behind closed doors. They are doing just as much damage, if not more. Now let me pause right here and ask y'all, do you see the similarities between Martell and Ken? Both of them love to make declarations. Both of them love to talk about what they're supposedly doing for their women. And both of them struggle to take accountability. And guess what? Both of them have women who are starting to feel the weight of that control. Arioni is holding on to a dream that will likely never happen. And Trisha is getting called out for playing along with Ken's storyline, while the truth tells a different story. But baby, that's not even the end of it, because as we go deeper into this tea, It connects right back to the core cast of Love and Marriage. Huntsville Melody Shari, Martell Scott, Maura Scott, Kimmy Scott, and even Letitia. The dynamics of control, money, marriage, and image have always been at the center of this show. And this situation with Carlos exposing Martell just proves that the cycle continues. And listen, don't go anywhere because I'm just warming up. I'm going to break down exactly why Carlos King decided to say this now. Why Martell is still using Arioni as his fiancée instead of his wife. And how all of this drama ties back to Melody and the other cast members. So keep watching until the end. Because trust me, it gets even messier from here. Now, let's get back into this because Carlos King did not just randomly decide to throw Martell under the bus. No, this man is too calculated for that. Carlos knows what he's doing. Think about it. Why would he say, on a public platform, that Martell has no real intentions of marrying Arionne Curry? It's simple. Carlos is trying to control the narrative before Martell and Arionne try to flip it themselves. See, Carlos has always been protective of the Love and Marriage Huntsville brand. He knows the fans are already tired of Martell's antics. They're tired of the same old storyline about Arioni being in the shadows. So Carlos had to step in and basically say, look, don't expect a wedding. Don't expect some big romantic storyline. Martell is not going to deliver that, and I know it. And honestly, I think he's right. Because y'all, let's be real. If Martell was serious about Arioni, he would have shown us by now. Instead, all we get is rumors, side conversations, and little breadcrumbs that lead to nowhere. This man loves to dangle the idea of marriage over Arionne's head because it keeps her loyal. It keeps her invested, and it keeps her quiet. As long as she thinks there's a ring coming, she won't rock the boat too much. That's Martell's strategy. Control through empty promises. And poor Arioni. She really believes that she's next in line, when the truth is, she's just the backup plan. Think about it. Martell has been using her for years. She was the side chick while he was married to Melody. She was the one sitting at home while Melody was the one traveling, speaking, running businesses, and securing her bag. And even now, Arioni is still in the shadows, waiting for the spotlight that may never come. But here's where it gets juicy. Carlos hinted that Martell calls her fiancé not because he plans to marry her, but because it gives him credibility. Y'all know Martell loves to look like he has it all together. He wants to project this image of a man who has a family, a partner, and a future. But the reality is completely different. The reality is that Martell is still living off past glory, still chasing opportunities, and still depending on the women in his life to prop him up. And y'all know Melody Shari is the biggest example of that. Let's not forget, Melody was the brains, the businesswoman, the strategist. She was the one running Holt and Holt. She was the one making moves. Martell was just riding the wave. And once Melody walked away, Martell's whole empire came crashing down. That's why he tries so hard to create the illusion that he's stable now with Arioni. But baby, it's just that illusion. Now, let's talk about the fans because they are not buying this nonsense. Under Carlos's live and under posts about Martell and Arioni, the comments were on fire. People were saying Martell is never going to marry her. Others were saying, Arioni needs to wake up. And some fans even pointed out how unfair it is that Arioni has given Martell years of her life. To be strung along. One fan wrote, he kept Melody on lock for years. And now he's doing the same to Arionne. When will the cycle stop? And honestly, that's the question we all want answered. And let's not forget how Martell, Scott, and Maurice Scott love to throw their slick little comments about Martell's situation. Martell in particular loves to joke about Martell. But deep down, you know he enjoys watching Martell struggle. Why? Because it takes the heat off him. Every time Martell gets dragged, Martell gets a little breathing room from fans who constantly call him out about his own messy behavior. And y'all know Martell is messy between his shady humor, the way he talks to Letitia, and all the rumors floating around him. He stays in the drama. But here's the thing, no matter what Martell says, everybody knows Melody is still the star of this show. The fans tune in for her. They root for her. They celebrate her wins. And you can see the difference while Melody is thriving. Martell is sinking. And Arioni. She's just holding on to someone else's leftovers, hoping it turns into a main course. So let me pause right here and ask you, because I really want to know. Do you think Martell will ever marry Arioni? Or is he just stringing her along forever? Drop your thoughts because I'm curious if anyone actually believes a wedding is in the future. And
Carlos knows fans aren't buying Martell's happy little family image with Arioni. He knows people are still side-eyeing the situation, still wondering how Arioni fits in after years of chaos. So by saying Martell isn't serious, Carlos basically pulled the curtain back. He gave fans permission to question the whole thing, and now the floodgates are wide open. And baby, the timing is not accidental. Because let's be real, Melody Shari is out here winning. She's headlining events, collecting awards, and growing her brand bigger than ever. Meanwhile, Martell's only claim to relevancy is being tied to her, and low-key to Arionne. Without Melody, Martell doesn't have a storyline. Without Arioni, he doesn't have the relationship drama that keeps people talking. Carlos knows this, and he's playing chess, not checkers. Now, let's not forget about how this impacts the Scots Marsa and Maurice. Y'all, I have to say, if these men thrive when Martell is drowning, every time Martell's name blows up, the Scots get to breathe. But the difference here is that fans are waking up. They're starting to say, wait a minute, why is Martell still the scapegoat when Marsa has his own mess? And Carlos sees that shift coming. So instead of letting the focus drift completely to the Scots, he's keeping Martell's drama front and center. And let's circle back to Arioni, because I need to ask this. How much longer can she keep playing this role? She's already been dragged for years as the side chick. Now, she's being dragged as the fiancé with no ring. Fans are calling her delusional, saying she's wasting her life. And honestly, they're not wrong. Arioni has given Martell everything: her loyalty, her youth, her reputation. What does she have to show for it? Nothing but a title he doesn't even mean. But here's the Gagarion doesn't just sit in silence. Every so often, she claps back on social media, throwing shade at Melody, throwing shade at the cast, acting like she knows something the rest of us don't, and every single time it backfires. Because instead of making her look powerful, it makes her look pressed. One fan even said Arioni is fighting a war she already lost. Melody walked away and she's still stuck in the mess. And that hit hard because it's true. Now, while Carlos was spilling, Claudia and Dustin were right there nodding along. Claudia even laughed when Carlos said Martell isn't serious. And you know, Claudia doesn't hold back. She thinks you're clowning. She's going to let you know. That reaction alone told fans everything they needed to know. Nobody in the industry believes this man is walking down the aisle with Arione. And y'all, the comments during that live? Hilarious, but also telling. Fans were literally saying, Martell will propose when pigs fly. Others said, Arioni needs to start a podcast because that's the only ring she's getting Spotify. Phew, the shade was endless. But here's the thing, the shade comes from a place of frustration. Fans are tired of seeing Arioni waste her life and tired of Martell dodging accountability. But here's my theory, and stay with me on this, Carlos knows. Martell isn't going to give us a wedding. So he's going to give us the next best thing. It's the breakup storyline. Yep. Don't be shocked if the next season shows cracks between Martell and Arioni that we've never seen before. Carlos will milk that breakup, and baby, the ratings will skyrocket. Because let's face it, what do fans love more than a messy marriage? A messy breakup. And when Arioni finally realizes she's been strung along, the fireworks are going to be bigger than anything Huntsville has seen. And best believe, Melody is going to be unbothered, sipping her tea and stacking her wins while Martell's house of cards collapses. But let me ask y'all this. Do you think Arioni will ever leave on her own? Or is she going to stick around until Martell himself cuts her loose? Because from what I'm seeing, she's too invested, too deep in. It's too convinced that one day she'll be the one. But history tells us otherwise, and history never lies. And listen, don't go anywhere, because I'm about to break down exactly how this Martell Arioni mess could set off a chain reaction that drags in Marsa. Maurice, and even Kimmy. Trust me. This web of drama is wider than you think. It all starts with Carlos exposing Martell's biggest secret, that he never intended to marry Arioni in the first place. Martell and Arionne's situationship is like a ripple effect. It touches everybody in Huntsville, whether they admit it or not. And when Carlos called Martell out, it wasn't just about shutting down wedding rumors. It was about protecting the brand and setting up the dominoes for everyone else's storyline. Let's start with Martell Scott. Hugh! Martell stays ready with his slick little jokes about Martell, but you and I both know that humor is his shield. Every time Martell gets dragged, Martell cracks jokes because it keeps people from looking too closely at his own house. But fans aren't fooled anymore. They've been connecting dots, catching Martell's inconsistencies, and y'all. Some are even saying Martell's only laughing because Martell is living the life Martell hides behind closed doors. Messy, right? And then there's Maurice Scott and Kimmy. Now Kimmy is usually the peacemaker, the one trying to smooth everything over, but even she's starting to get fed up with how these men operate. Fans are noticing that Maurice plays the same accountability dodging game as Martell. He talks circles, shifts blame, and always makes it seem like he's doing more than he really is. And just like Carlos pointed out with Martell, actions speak louder than words. If a man wants to show up, he will, period. And let's not forget Letitia. Now this is where things get even more layered. Because while Arioni is out here being strung along by Martell, Letitia has been holding on to her marriage with Marseille, no matter what rumors or receipts float around. And fans are starting to notice the similarities to women, both putting their faith in men who dodge accountability, who lean on control, and who benefit from keeping their women in check. The parallels are loud, y'all. But here's the kicker through all of this. Melody Shari is the one who broke the cycle. She's the one who said no more and walked away. And that's why fans love her, root for her, and celebrate her every move. Melody is the blueprint, the example that you don't have to stay stuck in a man's chaos to thrive. And every time Martell and Arionne pop up in the headlines, it only makes Melody's glow up shine brighter. And Carlos knows that too. He knows Melody is the star, the fan favorite, the heartbeat of the show. That's why this Martell will never marry Arionne. Bombshell works perfectly, sets up Martell's downfall while highlighting Melody's rise. The contrast is undeniable. Melody is winning while Martell is floundering, and Arionne, she's stuck holding on to empty promises. But let me ask y'all this. Do you think the Scotts are secretly happy that Carlos threw Martell under the bus? Because, let's be honest, the more Martell gets exposed, the less heat the Scotts have to deal with. Martell can laugh, Maurice can play it cool, and Letitia can hold her head high because at least it's not them on blast. But what they don't realize is that fans are watching closely, and sooner or later, their patterns will catch up to them too. And baby, when that happens, it's going to be fireworks. Because if there's one thing Huntsville has taught us, it's that no secret stays buried forever. Whether it's Martell's fake engagement, Martell's shady comments, or Maurice's selective memory, the truth always comes out. And when it does, the fallout is brutal. Now, I'm not done yet. Because there's one more angle to this that people aren't talking about enough. Why Arioni stays silent when it matters most, and how her silence is actually Martell's biggest weapon. Stick with me because this part right here is going to make everything click.